What do I regret more, spending $2,500 on a laptop or not spending $3,500 on the laptop that I really wanted? I recently got the 16-inch M1 MacBook Pro, just the base model, but with 1 terabyte of internal storage. In this video, I want to show you what it's like to work in DaVinci Resolve with this computer, and just give you some specific examples working with different types of files, different types of footage, and also some pretty heavy plugins, just so you can have an idea whether the base spec is going to be enough or whether you should maybe think about going for one of the max versions and or getting more RAM. This video is focusing on the video editing applications of the M1 MacBook Pro, specifically in DaVinci Resolve. So if you're not interested in that, then you can just... Well, before I start, I just wanted to apologize for my glasses. One of my animals ate them, so I had to tape them together, and I need them to see. Let me just start by showing you how quickly this will actually launch Resolve. So hit Command Spacebar, Resolve's up, and boom. Much faster than my Windows PC. Even that little splash screen takes about a minute to come up. So I'm like in Resolve within like 10 seconds or less. A couple things to note. I am doing the screen capture through my Windows PC, so I'm not even doing any recording on the Mac. The only thing I have open is the Finder, which I don't even know if you can close that, and Resolve. So everything is dedicated to DaVinci Resolve. So there's just a little simple sequence that I was working on. I know there's not a whole lot going on here. This is all GoPro footage. This is from the GoPro Hero 10. Some of these clips are shot at 2704 by 1520. So this is 240 frames per second footage that's been slowed down to 23.976. I think there's a couple clips that were shot at 4K 60. Yeah, here's one here. So this one was at 4K UHD, mostly just 240 frames per second. H.265 footage here. And I'm gonna go to the beginning of this little sequence. Now you can see that we're definitely we're dropping some frames with this footage. And I'll show you what I have going on in terms of color. So definitely not getting full speed playback here. My master settings, I'm at 3840 by 2160 in 24 frames per second. If I go to playback, timeline proxy mode is off. So basically just trying to render this at full resolution here. I'm gonna jump over into the color page and show you what's going on with these clips. So I have just a couple of things. There's a custom curve, soft clip, primary offset, and another custom curve. There's the culprit here in terms of playback, and that's Dehancer Pro. So the Dehancer node is enabled. And again, just to show you here in the color page, getting about 19, 20 frames per second. So not terrible. If I just disable this node, so you can see that's off now, full playback, no issue. So basically what's happening here is Dehancer is affecting the full playback. Now if I go into this node, and you can see that the film grain is enabled, and let me just disable the film grain real quick so everything else is enabled for Dehancer, and we'll just play this clip. Full playback. So really it's just the film grain that's giving us the performance hit there. And it's only like 3, 4, 5 frames per second at most, which is still very, very impressive. I cannot get anywhere close to this on the Windows PC or even the Mac Mini. I might be getting 5 or 6 frames per second with this color grade. My Windows PC cannot play the 240 frames per second GoPro footage in H.265. It just doesn't do H.265 very well at all. And I actually had to make proxies in order to work with this footage on my Windows PC. But as you can see, this Mac Pro has no issues with the GoPro footage at all. Its only big hurdle here is the film grain. I'll turn that off and then come back. And that pretty much takes care of that. You know, I know this isn't a very complicated timeline, but you can see that there's some speed ramps going on here. So yeah, you can see 700% down to 172%, and then up to 698, and then down to 100%, and then ramped up to 700%, and no issues at all playing any of that back in real time. This is a compound clip you can see here, and then there is a little fusion effect that's going to pop up right here. So nothing crazy. This is just text that's tracked to the background. but you can see it doesn't have any issues with that either. Let me jump into another project. Let me jump into another timeline in the same project. So make sure timeline proxies off. I'm going to turn off render cache. Still 4K. Okay. So this footage is mostly A7S3, 422 10-bit, and it's a mixture of, I think, 24 frames per second and 60 frames per second footage that's already been slowed down to 23.976 in this project. Now, I'm pretty sure that this is all compression, if I remember correctly. It's been several weeks since I filmed this. Go back to the beginning here and just try to play this back. And you can see here on this project, also nothing too complicated. Basically just have one layer video tracks and then just one title here and then a couple layers of audio. I think there's a glitch here where it's showing you 23.976 frames, but it's clearly not playing that back. So I don't know if that's something going on with Resolve. So definitely having issues playing this back, and I'll jump over in the color page and show you why. So all these clips have just a Rec 709 conversion LUT applied to them. They also have a qualifier node. You can see a slight change to skin tone, so that's basically what that one's doing there. That's on and off. And then of course, this last one is Dehancer. So Dehancer is enabled. There we're getting about 17 to 18 frames per second with Dehancer. And if I turn off the film grain, .24 frames per second. That's just insane. Like, I cannot do anything. My Windows PC and the Mac Mini can't touch this in terms of Dehancer playback. It'll get about 5 frames per second playback with all of these effects applied. And the fact that this can get full playback in Dehancer, just minus the film grain node, or the film grain effect, is really, like, it's unbelievable to me. Just from my experience using this plugin, this makes it so much easier to actually work with without having to do any crazy workarounds. If I were just to go to timeline proxy and then just toggle this to half resolution, so you can see film grain is enabled. So half resolution, if you wanted to just leave this on and not have to worry about toggling either Dehancer on and off or the film grain on and off, you can just go to timeline resolution and go just to half resolution and get full speed playback. That's pretty crazy. Even that little section, you can see there was one little part where it dropped some frames, and that's just because there are some crossfades here. So right there, you can see it stopped, but then it gets back up and running and doesn't have any issue with the rest of the crossfades. So it's really just where we have the text and the track and the clips and the crossfade, it drops a couple frames. All right, so project settings, 4K, 23.976, playback, render cache, I'm going to turn off for now, and timeline proxy mode is off. This is A7S3 footage in H.265, 422 10-bit, and it shouldn't really have any issue playing this back, no problem. As you can see, issues, we can just jump around here. It's good to go. If we just scrub, scrubbing, it's probably not Final Cut Pro levels of just holding the playhead and scrubbing around, but if you let go and hit play, it just automatically just jumps right into the play, and I can reverse speed, so I'm going backwards here, 4 times reverse, hit stop, and 4 times forward, no issues, 8 times, boom, no issues, works perfectly. This next section of the video is some time lapses. So on the bottom track is A7S3, and on the top track is GoPro, and you can see they're just kind of layered on top of each other, opacity, and some fade ins and some fade outs. So I didn't really have any issue playing this back either. So where we're going to run into some issues here, really the first issues that are major, I would say. So I've just been working on this little intro graphic, I guess. So what's happening here is just 5 layers of footage stacked in, resized, and then shifted around to different positions on screen. And you can see once I looped that, it took a couple of passes and now it's going full speed. I mean, I guess it's not really playing back real time, even though it's saying it is. I don't know, I think that's a glitch. This next part is going to be a challenge. So here is a MotionVFX intro template. This is from the MIntro 2 pack for DaVinci Resolve. And it's definitely putting the hurt on the computer. They're created in Fusion. And you can see that you can preview them here. And the preview works okay. It obviously doesn't play back in real time either, but you can definitely get an idea for what each one is. And I've made a few changes to it as well. So you can come in and modify a lot of the parameters in these as well. So I have a logo that's been uploaded and connected into it. So when that pops up, there it is right there. I've changed all these colors basically. I've just switched out a lot of the colors in there as well. If I try to, let me just go ahead and render this. And you can see this is turning blue right here, so it's rendering out this section. After this little time-lapse section, there's another MotionVFX element added here. Pull up the inspector, go to effects. This is the MRestyle Dreamy effect. So that's only getting about 2 frames per second playback. So let's try, let's see, proxy quarter. Well, here's a bunch of these MRestyles. And let's see if they can actually give you a preview of them. So the previews take just a second or two to kind of load up, and then you're getting a real choppy playback, but you're at least able to see what's going to happen with the effect. So the last thing I want to show you is just some render times. Here's a completed project that I posted to YouTube last week, and I don't have I deleted all the footage off of it. So all that's left on this is just templates and graphics and things that I made. But you can see, I mean, it still has the information for the renders. And this project was 13 minutes and 55 seconds. Of course, it was a 4K project. I rendered a couple different versions of it, so just to show you the different times. So this is job 3 that was completed in 12 minutes and 36 seconds. That was without Dehancer. And then jobs 2 and 1 at 32 minutes and 23 seconds and 24:43 were with Dehancer. I think the difference between these two was this one was rendered at H.265 and this one was rendered with H.264. So I had H.265 footage and then rendered in H.265, and that seemed to have shortened the render time by about 8 minutes or so. I hope all those were relatively clear and at least somewhat helpful in giving you an idea of how this thing performs in Resolve. I know none of those projects were overwhelmingly complicated and maybe don't give you a clear understanding of what it's like to work on a big project in Resolve. So I wish I could have more to show you in that regard. Maybe I will do one final screen cap to show you this project, which I have been working on for the past week, and it's getting more and more cumbersome, and I think would be more representative of a typical 10-minute to 15-minute YouTube video. I think if money were no object, I would just opt to get the 24-core max with 32 gigs of RAM. But when you take into account the upgrade to 32 gigs of RAM and internal storage up to a terabyte, that's already an $800 increase over the base spec, and then another $200 increase to get to the max. So it definitely adds up quickly. It's not like, it's a pretty big stretch to get there. I appreciate you watching the video, and hopefully I'll see you in another one. And let me know in the comments if you want to see anything in particular about this computer, or if you don't care.